Sup guys, what I do? I hope you've been doing well and that your summer is off to a solid start. But let's get right into it, right? Like we're here because South Korea just released some new travel updates as of June 2022. So if you're looking to travel, if you know someone who's trying to travel to South Korea, like we're here to discuss the new KETA visa requirements, new testing requirements, and new quarantine updates. So like let's get right into it. So South Korea is now open officially for tourism purposes. But what does that mean for you? So, you will, if you are touring, assuming you're going to South Korea for tourism purposes, you will need a visa, regardless. Now, the type of visa you will need depends on the country you're from. You may qualify for a KETA or a traditional tourist type visa. But what's the difference? Essentially, the only difference is, again, the country you're from. KETA is South Korea's electronic version of a tourist visa. You have to apply for that you have to apply and get approved for that visa within or before, I think, 48 hours of your flight to South Korea. And only 115 countries, I think it's under 15, only 115 countries qualify for a KETA. So, like, if you're a US citizen, you can qualify and apply for a KETA. But again, you have to do that within 48 hours or before 48 hours of your flight. When I visited South Korea last year in October, that's what I did. Again, the turnaround time is super quick. I think I applied, like, what did I say, on a Wednesday or Thursday night and got approved and admitted like the next day. It's super, super quick. You have to check the website to see if the KETA applies to your home country. There are some countries where if they're not one of the 115 listed as approved KETA visa countries, you'll have to apply for a traditional visa. And you can find that information on specifically applying for a traditional visa through your embassy, through your government website, things like that. So that's the update there. It has to be, the KETA launched last year, so it's super new, so it's not like you need to backdate and update it. So if a KETA is not applicable from your home country, please check your embassy's website because they will have significantly more information on that specifically. Now, as it relates specifically to flying in and out of different countries, South Korea, for international flights, still requires a negative COVID test. You have to provide a negative COVID test from your home country in order to board the plane to go into South Korea. The difference is that previously you needed to have a negative PCR test and a negative PCR test only taken within 72 hours of your international flight departure. Here's what's different now, though. It no longer needs to be taken within 72 hours, but it needs to be taken within 48 hours of your departure. What's also new is that you can take and provide a negative rapid test in place of a negative PCR test. But the negative rapid test has to be supervised. So now we're talking the rapid test that you get at CVS. That one applies. Whereas before, when I traveled, I physically had to go to like a doctor's office to get a PCR test. And you couldn't use the COVID tests that a CVS or Walgreens provided. That is one of the things that has changed, which is fantastic because previously, like when I traveled, I had to go through fucking hoops to find a healthcare provider that provided a PCR test. So those are two things with regards to testing that's new. Again, the PCR test has to be taken within 48 hours of your flight, and South Korea does allow supervised rapid tests so long as they are negative results. One of the other things that hasn't really changed, though, is that when you enter South Korea, you are still required to take a negative PCR test within 72 hours of landing. And before you leave South Korea, you will also have to take a negative test in order to re-enter your country. At least for the United States, you are still required to take and prove that you have a negative test result. One of the disclaimers that I will provide is that I'm not sure if it still has to be a negative PCR test or if it can be a negative rapid test so long as it's supervised. That I'm not entirely sure. So if anyone knows that specific information, please let us know just so that way we can all be informed. But those are the updates with regards to testing. The rapid test is really the new thing. Now, with regards to quarantining. So, quarantine is lifted. You do not need a quarantine for specific people still. So, let me read what the US Embassy and Consulate in the Republic of Korea's website says about quarantine. Quarantine exemption is available for vaccinated travelers who have either completed their COVID-19 vaccine in Korea, 2, already registered their overseas vaccination history at a local Korean public health center, or 3, completed their vaccination overseas and registered their vaccination history through the Quarantine COVID-19 Defense Q code system before traveling to Korea. So if I'm interpreting that correctly, if you are vaccinated, you do not need a quarantine, but you will have to record and document your information in a very specific South Korean website, which is linked below. It'll say Q code system. You have to put your information there so you won't need a quarantine. One of the other things that's going to be new, which may change, so bear with me and bear with new updates as they become available. But one of the other things that is supposedly and intended to be new is that as of, I think, Friday, June 3rd, the South Korea's prime minister is intending on lifting all quarantine restrictions for everyone, including unvaccinated individuals. So I don't know what that means to you, how you feel about that, but I wanted to let you know, make you aware. And that is supposed to take into effect on June 8th. Again, as more information becomes available, we're still in a pandemic technically. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know how that's going to change things in the future. But we can then assume that if unvaccinated individuals will no longer have to quarantine, then if you are vaccinated, it solidifies the fact that you do not need a quarantine. Again, if you or someone you know has more specific information about that, please let us know. If you're in South Korea now and you're going through these updates in real time, let us know so we can all be informed. So those are really all of the new updates with regards to visas, K-ETAs, COVID testing, and quarantine regulations. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. I love having conversations with people who are saying that they're going or they're planning on going and they're booking their flight. Like, I love having that. We love traveling. We love living our best lives. Like, yes, if you need a hype man, I got you. As always, I hope this video was helpful and you know the rest. See yous!